All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, February 5th. We have a big NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays so that I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, in terms of yesterday, I even posted on Instagram. I was like, I think I'm scrambling to find some plays here. We only hit one, and it was a late add to the card, the Discord play that we threw out to you guys. If you're in the Discord, shout out to you guys. Link in the description. Absolutely free. It's just a big group chat where we talk about our plays. But that was our only hit. We had the parlay with Tyrese Halliburton and Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero did his job, but Tyrese Halliburton, he is owed a womp there. We had a 15 plus and 5 plus. He hit his assists, put up a goose egg for his points number. So yeah, tough to see that. Jason Tatum, unfortunately, doesn't come through with his points plus rebounds. But realistically, the story, the tale of the tape here, Tyrese Halliburton added to the DNB graveyard. We removed Paul George. Paul George has been injured for so long. Whatever. It's like a get out of jail free card. You're out of my mind, out of sight, right? But Tyrese Halliburton has burned us now a couple times. The first time recently, the first time he was close. He played well, just didn't hit his shots. Last night, what are we doing, man? So he is in the DNB graveyard, the do not bet graveyard, until further notice. What do you guys think of that? You think it's fair, right? Tyrese Halliburton in the DNB graveyard. We do have some good news, though. What a ride of the day from my man Kool-Aid. Let's pump in some crowd noise. Let's turn the vibes around. We don't need to focus on Halliburton. Let's focus on the dubs. Kool-Aid had Donovan Mitchell for plus money over 4.5 rebounds. Donovan Mitchell, in a very good game last night, finished with 31 points, 6 assists, and 10 rebounds. We actually over doubled up this line, right? He doubled up this line and then some. So shout out to Kool-Aid here. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD in the comments. Give me your favorite play. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Also on my X, which is right here if you guys do want to follow me there. And you get a shout out on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays. If you win, we continue to ride with your play, so looking forward to seeing what Kool-Aid drops today. If you lose, you do have to face the womp womp, but get those plays down in the comments, because even though we're riding with Kool-Aid now until he loses, we still will always say that those ride of the days are like super important to people in the comments. Like, there are some bangers in the comments. I know a lot of you guys have been commenting that you've been finding some great plays in the comments. How many times can I say comments? I don't know. Let's go ahead and move on to this slate. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're starting off with a team that we just mentioned, right? A good game last night, Cavs Celtics, and now we're looking at Detroit taking on the Cavs here. So this Detroit team, I'm not exactly sure where to peg them as of right now. They were playing really well, then they kind of took a little bit of downfall. Now they've been back and forth, kind of good and bad, playing decent. Some games not looking like they're clicking. Definitely have sort of solidified themselves as a team that is going to play really, really well down low. I think we can give them credit for that. As long as, you know, they don't implode and we see them lose that edge, that is something that they're going to be very, very strong at. Cleveland also is very good down low, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they should be on the offensive side. They've just gotten away from that recently, and they've started to chuck a lot of threes, which is why I do think if everyone is healthy here, because then Cleveland's on a back-to-back, you never know if, you know, some guys may not play, but if everyone's healthy, the injury report looks clean as of right now, but they don't have to declare until later on in the day because they're on a back-to-back. If everyone's healthy, let me get to the point. I do think this is a good spot for Cleveland, minus the 5 points, solely because of the shooting ability. They should be able to shoot against this Detroit team who on the season allowing the 6th most points from 3 per game, and honestly, not even great when you look at it from a percentage perspective. So yeah, you're allowing a lot of points, and even when teams don't shoot on you frequently, which I think Cleveland's going to be a frequent customer from the three-point line tonight, you're allowing over 37% from above the break in your last 10 games. I think that that's where they're going to got today. I will also say they're not the best pick and roll defense when it comes to guarding the ball handler. That's going to scream Darius Garland to me. Now, Darius Garland has been a guy that we've, looked at multiple times and played multiple times. He was in that parlay that we hit yesterday as well. So, yeah, obviously he's someone that we'd consider, but as he keeps having these good games and good games and good games, we're going to see that line start to creep up. I still don't mind it here at 21.5, but it is a lot higher than it even was when we were getting it back at 19.5 and 20.5. You know what I mean? So he's on a back-to-back. I guess that's something to note, but in terms of his back-to-backs this season, he's actually hit it in 5 of 8 back-to-back spots. His last 2 back-to-backs, 40 points, 39 points. So I think that's a spot I'd go player prop-wise potentially here. Last time he played the Pistons, let's see if we have that data from last season, if you bear with me. Does he have anything in terms of head-to-head data here? 22 points last time he played Detroit. That wasn't even last season. That was earlier this year, huh? 127, yeah. So in January, he had 22 points against them. So, yeah, I think he's going to be good in the pick and roll here. In terms of what we come out with a total, I will say that Detroit's defense down low should be sound. And we saw the Celtics defense give the Cavs some, troubles down low as well. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs fill it up from deep, but you know what? They're not going to be able to get those easy buckets on this Pistons. So 236.5, I think I'm going to lean slightly towards the under here in this spot. The one thing that concerns me is the Pistons at home here. They obviously can play with a fast pace, and they have been playing with fast pace. And then Cleveland, in no-rest situations, have hit the over in 80% of their games. But this is a high number, right? Cleveland, the under, and then some Garland looks. That's what I'm looking at in this game. All right, Charlotte taking on Milwaukee. You don't have too much interest in this one, if I'm being completely honest. We have Lillard, who's questionable, as well as Giannis, and they're not listed as probable. They're literally listed as game-time decisions, so we'll kind of monitor that. We know LaMelo's going to be out a little bit longer, and Micic is listed as a game-time decision here, too. So we have a ton of injuries to note here. If there's no Dame and no Giannis, I'm going to lean towards the Hornets getting 9.5 points, right? I want to see, 10.5 now, actually, updated since we took that graphic. So, I mean, yeah, I'll lean in that direction. I think that's way too many points to lay if Giannis doesn't play, if Dame doesn't play. If they both play and they both are good to go, I don't see any reason why we'd eagerly go to either side here, right? This Milwaukee team has lost 4 straight games, when healthy, when not healthy, just a mix of both. And Charlotte, now, I don't think they're very good without LaMelo, don't get me wrong. It's still just a lot of points to give a home team here, especially if Dame and Giannis aren't at full strength. So it's going to be Hornets or pass, and I'm telling you, when I say Hornets or pass, it's like Hornets, or probably the majority of my brain is saying pass. In terms of what we have from a total, it is at 220. I see this one finishing right around that 212 to 218 mark, especially, again, if Giannis and Dame do not play. If they play, they kind of throw a wrench into everything I'm thinking about. So I'll lean towards the under here as well, but I don't think I touch this game. Don't love any player props, and honestly, with those injuries, it's like the biggest of deals, right? It's not like we're waiting for one guy to be ruled in or out. It's like the 2 guys that matter are questionable. Next up, we have Philly taking on the Heat. This should be a fairly interesting one here because you have the Sixers, who are seemingly playing some decent basketball. I mean, their only losses that they've come by in their last 10 games are Boston, Denver twice. They lost to Milwaukee and Indiana. Like, they kind of have some excusable losses. They're on a homestand right now, and they've won 3 of those 5 games. Miami's also, Philadelphia's on a back-to-back as well as Miami. But Miami went from San Antonio, they got that win. They go to Chicago and now to Philly. So though these aren't like the cross-country type trips, still a decent amount of traveling here in this spot. Now, this total is very, very low, which I think is going to suit this Miami team a little bit more than Philly overall. But to me, depending on, some of the guys that play here, I think I'm going to lean towards... I want to lean Philadelphia because Paul George may be coming back, and I think that they're putting a little bit of something together. Andre Drummond may be playing as well. Quentin Grimes, their newly acquired player. I want to lean Philadelphia, but I think... Oh, you guys are seeing I was about to say I'm going to lean Philadelphia, but when I look at the numbers more and more, it's like I think Miami should be able to score from deep, and honestly, like Khalil Ware and Bam should be able to clean up down low as well. So you know what? Philly's not been rebounding all that well, especially when they go small. Yes, they've been winning games, but I'm going Miami, and I'm not sounding the psycho alert alarm because Miami's the crazy pick. I'm sounding that because I just pivoted in my head. Everything that I wanted to talk about was realistically kind of in the middle / Philadelphia favored to some degree, but I think that Miami should be able to, one, score from deep, score off isolation, which is something that they do really, really well. And, if they do get it down low, I'm not loving this Philadelphia defense down there. And if Paul George comes back, sure, that may keep me off it a little bit more, but screw it. We're looking at Miami. Total sitting at 215.5. I've seen 217.5s out there. This is one where it's probably going to be low scoring overall. I mean, to this line, if you look at both teams in their most recent 10 games here, so to this line, if each of their games was 217.5, they've been soaring over. So they're almost due for an under, and they both play a similar pace basketball in the last 10 games. So I am going to lean towards the under in this spot. I think a lot of people may be on the over today because the trends would point to the over in this all day long. But to me, both teams, they're not the most efficient, and they've been playing at a slow pace. Eventually, that's going to catch up. All right, real quick, guys, before we get to the rest of the slate, if you have not checked out Sleeper Picks, now is the time to do so. So many promos in the world right now, and you got some great ones over on Sleeper. First off, a new customer, Devin Booker, 0.5 points line. Yeah, throw that into your entry. It's going to boost your payout. Speaking of payouts, they have unique multipliers in their payouts. They don't follow a fixed payout structure. But the biggest thing that I think they're offering is this play 5, get 55. It's really, really cool, guys. You hand them a $5 bill of an entry, you're going to get 11 free $5 plays after that. Literally 11, $55. And if you hit that original $5 entry, you're going to get that payout as well. Go check out Sleeper, guys. It's also Wednesday, which means it's Wild Card Wednesday over there. They discount a bunch of lines and players and squares and everything like that every Wednesday. So go ahead and check it out. That link will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. I'll definitely be on Sleeper using those promos today because, again, they just are a really, 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 really cool tool, especially when it comes to the world of player props. I'm loving the fact that they have alternate lines. They have more plays available. They don't just bump plays off the app. Really cool stuff, guys. Go check out Sleeper Picks. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Now let's jump into these games. All right, next up, Atlanta taking on San Antonio, and we have De'Aaron Fox in the lineup for Atlanta, for San Antonio, not Atlanta. He did not get traded again. Very excited for this one, and I think I'm maybe fangirling at a big trade because I'm so excited to see San Antonio with De'Aaron Fox in the lineup that it's making me want to roll with them as well. Now, this Atlanta team has not been playing the best of basketball. We know that. So it's not that crazy that I would like San Antonio in this spot, but San Antonio has definitely struggled on the road this year. They've covered in 52% of their games, but straight up 7-13 on the road compared to their 13 wins at home. So yeah, it's a little tough to want to get there. They haven't been playing the best basketball, but I would argue Atlanta's been playing worse basketball, right? And even when these two teams played earlier in the season back in December, San Antonio won in OT, and that was, I believe, in San Antonio. So I guess they have that little notch in their belt. I'm going to lean San Antonio. I'm giving you the bias side of it first, that I'm really, really excited that, we're going to see De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. I think that's going to be a very good match, right? Especially because De'Aaron Fox can run in transition. He's really good in the pick and roll, which they should be able to run with Wemby. But in reality, this is a San Antonio team that can score from deep as well as the perimeter. Atlanta's defense has lost its identity altogether. They've always been one of the worst perimeter defenses so far this season, right? But now they've lost any sort of ability to defend down low, and I think it's going to hurt them here, obviously, with, the pick and roll being run between, say, Wemby and, De'Aaron Fox. Now, one thing I'll mention, I've referenced the pick and roll a couple times here. This is a San Antonio team that so far this season has not run much of the pick and roll, but De'Aaron Fox's predominant play type is pick and roll, so I imagine they're going to involve him or involve that some way, shape, or form to utilize his best abilities. So if they just stick to what they've been doing, then yeah, the pick and roll actually might not be a factor. But I do think that this is going to be a spot in which they say, hey, we got a great pick and roll ball handler, let's run it. So I'm excited to see that. Excited to see Wemby in pick and roll action a lot. I think he's going to be able to dominate, whether he's popping or catching lobs down low. So give me San Antonio here in this spot. This is a game between, over the last 10 games, the number 1 pace team and the number 3 pace team in San Antonio. There could be a lot of points here, which should help, I would say, San Antonio even more. Transition offense so far this year, 54% from the field, which is really good, and Atlanta's allowing nearly 55% in terms of transition defense. So San Antonio minus the points. I also, again, maybe this is back to the fangirling over the new trade. Maybe I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox's points or points plus assists. I think he could have a good night and fit pretty well in this team. Now, the total, I mentioned this should be high scoring and all that. 241 is a very high total. I think it's silly to lean towards an under here, so I will say over, but it is a very high number, and I don't know if I want to get there myself, because as much as I'm saying Fox should be a good fit, and maybe they'll run these plays for him, what if there's growing pains, right? What if there's growing pains? What if their defense stops Atlanta? Atlanta isn't all that efficient, and we see a very low-scoring game because of that sort of sentiment, right? So I'm not jumping to the total right away. I do think that, like all the numbers I'm seeing would point towards somewhat of a, an over, but again, there could be growing pains there. I'm probably sticking away from that. All right, moving on. Brooklyn taking on Washington. Brooklyn taking on Washington. Do we have much to say about this game? Not really. I mean, you do have Washington playing arguably good basketball, I guess, but then you flip it to Brooklyn, and it's like Brooklyn's won 3 straight. 2 of those wins were against Houston outright. So I don't really know where to come out on this one. I think if I really had to roll with something here, I'd say give me Brooklyn. They're just not as bad as Washington. Now, Washington, since getting back Brogdon and since this little win streak, they've actually looked better, I guess, right? Like they've looked okay. So sure, maybe there's something to be said there that they're going to be a little bit better than what people think. But even if they're a little bit better than what people think, they still stink out loud. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying Brooklyn isn't also in that category, but Brooklyn at least has, D'Angelo Russell, Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson maybe making, a play tonight. Ben Simmons is probable. Like, to me, that's just a little bit something more. So I'll lean Brooklyn, but honestly, just like some games we've had recently, if you guys love something in this game, you're probably a psycho. But you know what? I love you even more for it. So give me Brooklyn, as well as a potential lean here towards... I almost think that we could see a decent scoring game. And when I say decent, I mean just in the 220s. Nothing crazy. So I'll lean towards the over. I mean, you look at these two teams. Brooklyn obviously plays super slow, but their defense isn't all that tremendous. They've actually been playing good defense as of late, but, not necessarily wanting to trust it. They've played against Charlotte, Houston, and Houston in their last 3 games here. So Charlotte with no LaMelo, and then Houston, who, doesn't need to play that fast altogether. I'm going to say that this one's a little bit more high pace and high scoring. So I'll lean towards the over, but if I touch anything in this game, it's probably just Brooklyn money line, and even that is a stretch. All right, next up, Toronto taking on Memphis. The thing that I look at right away is whenever we're seeing Memphis play, like how does the other team defend the paint? Well, Toronto's been a lot better as of late. They're still not the best paint defense. So I do end up, ultimately thinking that this is going to be a nice spot for Memphis. Toronto's on a back-to-back as well. I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek because Toronto's actually covered in 75% of their back-to-backs this year and in 65.5% of their home games. So it's not like you can sit here and be like, oh, they're in a good situation. You throw in Memphis into the fact, and it's like, well, Memphis is only covered in their rest advantage situations in 30% of games. So it's like, yeah, it's hard to make a true argument for, Toronto being in a bad spot here. But we can make the argument and set the point that Memphis is in a good spot, right? This is a team that over the last 10 games here, 4th in terms of frequency at shooting at the rim, and then 3rd in terms of in the paint outside of that restricted area. On the season, the number 2 team in terms of points in the paint. On the road this year, the number 3 team. And this is a Toronto team that, like I said, they've been a little bit better, but they still do struggle in that lane. So yeah, I'm going to think that Memphis gets the job done today. This is a very big number, 240, right? I think Memphis can score some points. I don't know if Toronto keeps up with them necessarily, so I'm going to go Memphis, but from a total perspective, I might look at Memphis team total or Toronto team total under. We talked about Memphis being able to score, right? But Toronto is also very much a in-the-paint type of a team, and Memphis is a very good in the paint defense. So I don't think that they're going to allow many points in the paint there. Toronto does a lot of catch and shoot, or has a lot of catch and shoot jumpers. This is a Memphis team that actually closes out and covers those fairly well as well. So if we can look at the team totals right now, which I'll get some updated numbers for you so we can kind of have a reference point, right? Right now, Memphis's team total, if you're looking to roll with the over, would be right around 122.5. See, that seems a little high, even if I think that they scored a lot of points. But where I really do think that they kind of put their thumb down is right here, under 117.5 against Toronto. This pace should be fairly high, and I totally understand that, right? But I don't think they're going to have the easiest time scoring. Last time they played was a 126 finish for Toronto. They scored 126 points, right? That was in a 155 to 126 game. You really think that we're going to put up like 220 this, or what was that? Oh, that ended up being actually like 190-ish, you know what I mean? This game, I'm not exactly sure. 181, like I feel like that was a massive high scoring game. Obviously, this Toronto team, even in this good little stretch that they've hit the under in 9 of their last 10 games. When they're at home here, they've hit it in 9 straight. And then when they're on back-to-backs, they've actually gone up and over. But again, I do think that Memphis is going to sort of hinder them to some degree. So yeah, I'm looking at a Toronto team total under. I just hope that, Memphis doesn't just absolutely up the pace and we're screwed here. But again, I've been off with Toronto, and we know that, right? Like I've said it multiple times. Now, Memphis in the under for Toronto's team total. One spot that I would consider is definitely someone that's going to be getting those looks down low for this Memphis team. Yes, Ja Morant should be playing here, I believe, but where I'd go is probably either Zach Edey or Jaren Jackson Jr. Both of those guys are going to get their field goal attempts down there. I do worry that Zach Edey will get in foul trouble because Toronto, whether they'll make or miss, they like to shoot in the paint, meaning they're getting in there, and Zach Edey doesn't move his feet very well. So Jaren Jackson, who probably is going to be the guy I look at, I think his point total is going to be kind of high, but once Ja is officially ruled in, I'm hoping that it comes down a little bit. And let's see Jaren Jackson without, because Desmond Bane is out, right? So let's see if, and I didn't even mention that, but realistically, like, if it's Jackson and Ja on the court, I do still like Memphis. Trying to see what we have from Jaren Jackson Jr. without Bane, if we can kind of take a peek at that. So knows Desmond Bane, he's hit the over in, yeah, I mean, this doesn't look all that terrible. He's hit the over in his last 10 games here. He's hit the over in 5 of them, but in his last 5 games, he's hit the over in 1, 2, 3, 4. He's hit the over in 3 of his last 5, 4 of his last 6 with no Desmond Bane on the floor. So yeah, I'm not minding this spot for him. The last 2 games that he's played without him, including last game, he had 31, and that was against a team in San Antonio that actually can cover the paint fairly well. So yeah, that could be a look. I will say we're going to have, Ja Morant on the floor. So with Ja Morant, he may get a few less looks, but all eyes are going to be on Ja. So I like Jaren Jackson today, even with that line being high. But maybe we look at like Memphis money line, Jaren Jackson Jr., 20 plus points, same game parlay, something like that. Guys, like I told you at the beginning of the video, we do have a Discord absolutely free. That link is down in the description. Make sure to join. Again, it's just a big group chat. We're talking. I like to jump in there and talk with you guys. But one thing that we have, which is really, really cool, and I've only teased it in there, and I'm not putting the link here anywhere on YouTube because this thing is still in beta testing, but it's a new tool that we have launched on the Guy Boston Sports site. I know you guys love the dashboard and everything, but this is a very, very cool tool. You can come in here and see, based on the sportsbook line, where do we project these players? I guess that's a back-to-back, so we don't have that yet. Let's go Jaren Jackson, right? We see his line. Okay, a point, so that's pretty minimal. 0.82 edge there. We like him for rebounds. We look at Zach Edey, right? You can plug in these players and kind of see where we have them pegged versus Sportsbook's line. So very, very cool. If you wanted to just filter to say, okay, well, we just want to look at the Detroit players there, right? You can do that as well, and they pop up to see where some value is. So this is a brand new tool. It's still, again, I even have it up here in beta testing. The link is only accessible if you get it through that Discord. So yeah, check out the Discord, and I'll be posting about this in the channels in there right now. Again, this is just like to add to your repertoire, right? I'd never encourage any of the tools that we build to say that this is going to be 100%. This thing has been looking damn good in terms of being able to use it, no matter if you're on Sportsbook or DFS app. It's been really, really accurate, but you never can guarantee that, right? This is just another sort of projection model to add into your process, if that makes sense, versus, saying, oh, this is my live and die by tool. I'm loving this thing, but again, it's still in beta. We're still working on it. So go ahead and check it out. Join the Discord. That link is in the description. And yeah, test this out and let me know what you think of the tool. We're still playing around with the name as of right now. Right now we're calling it the Edge Finder, but I don't know if that has the pizzazz to it. And you know what? Speaking of that, comment Edge if you made it this far. That lets me know that you saw this tool, that you'll have some thoughts on it. Comment Edge if you made it, and it just lets me know that you made it this far in the video, right? So comment Edge if you made it this far. But all right, let's get back to these damn games, all right? I'm rambling enough here. Minnesota taking on Chicago. So Chicago, last night, I was eager to see how they played without Levine and whatnot, and they scored 133. That was really without a good Vooch game, right? He had 12 points. So Josh Giddey stepped up, Kobe White stepped up, Bezalis, who is just looking for more minutes, stepped up. He played 31 minutes and had 24 points, and he went 4 of 4 from deep. So this Chicago team has some players. They just don't have the names that you're really all that aware of, right? On the other side of things, we are looking at Minnesota, coming off of that loss against Sacramento, I don't know if I really want to knock them too hard for that. I think the Sacramento team is slowly but steadily, slowly but surely, I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for, becoming a pretty damn good team, okay? Even though they lose De'Aaron Fox, and I think Levine's going to add a lot to them. And this team, talking about Sacramento a lot here, we're not even on that game, but this team is going to be creeping up in the rankings. That was a big win against Minnesota. So I don't really blame Minnesota for a hard-fought game. There's plenty of that game that looked good. I think that they bounced back in this one. My one concern, and it really is my only concern, isn't that number just freaking massive? A Chicago team that we know can run. We know that they can run, and Minnesota isn't the fastest team. If this game just even for a blip starts to be a fast-paced game, which it could be, Chicago should be able to kind of control some of the pace. So, yeah, I think Minnesota wins this game. I don't necessarily want to sit here and lay the 11 and I think I've seen 11 and a halves out there. So give me Chicago plus the points. But if you're looking just to put money lines in and whatnot, I do think that this is going to be like a 8-point win for Minnesota or something like that. We have it pegged at right now it's 119.5 to 112. So a 7.5 point win in our model, for Minnesota here, but Chicago's still covering, and the over hitting as well, right? Because again, I think Chicago's going to up the pace. So yeah, I think this is going to be a decent spot. If we look at Chicago, to a number of 227.5, they've hit it in 4 of their last 5 games and in 6 of their last 10. Now that's if you put that total to all of their games. Minnesota's sitting here hitting the over in 6 of the last 10. So I don't really see why we wouldn't be able to see this one go up and over that 227 number. If you look at them head to head, one time this season, it's already gone over. That was a 135 to 119 game, and it's gone over in 2 of their last 3 games. So yeah, I kind of like the over in this spot, as well as potentially thinking Chicago keeps this one close. Now, when we break it down and look at it from a player prop perspective, I do think there's some, spots to consider here. We're going to want to consider guys that take it in isolation. Their defense is becoming solidified as, decent down low, decent on the perimeter. They're decent against catch and shoots. They really struggle against pull-ups and isolation players. So who do we think of when we think of isolation on this side of things for the Bulls? I guess a couple names that would have come to mind, or one name that would have come to mind would have been Zach LaVine, but even Kobe White, right? He's going to run in transition. He'll score some of his points in isolation. They don't run too much isolation, but you have a few guys that can play some isolation basketball. I do think that Josh Giddey, even though he's not a scorer in isolation, he will isolate every now and then type of thing. So I would consider a Kobe White or even like a Josh Giddey look here. Now, Josh Giddey on back-to-backs. Last time he had 18 points on their back-to-back against a good defense in the Clippers, and he's gone 15, 20, and 24 points in his last 3 games. So he could be a good look here, but again, I think that I should phrase this way. This probably makes more sense. Chicago should be able to score in isolation against Minnesota. They do not run a lot of isolation, so it's a matter of finding who's going to be, the circle peg that fits in the circle hole there, right? It's going to probably end up being either, Kobe White or Josh Giddey, because they will have the ball. Not necessarily predominant isolation players, but they can isolate, right? I mean, you have Patrick Williams, who also, since he's been playing with that second group, has started to get that little, back the guy down in isolation move. So maybe that's consideration. Throwing a lot at you guys. I'd probably say Giddey would be my best look in terms of player props here. I'm hoping that we have some isolation opportunities, which doesn't happen much with the Bulls, but that's the way to beat this Minnesota team, or at least keep it close. OKC taking on Phoenix. This is a tough one. I smile when I look at it because it's like, obviously we know we should be looking at OKC, right? Like, they're so much better and all that, but this is a big number. Now, we will say Kevin Durant has been listed as doubtful, and there's been a lot of rumors about Kevin Durant potentially being traded. So if Kevin Durant doesn't play, then sure, OKC minus the 12 points, right? I don't think that that's too hard to think about. This team you can almost just blindly roll with OKC this season, right? They've been so good. They've covered in 63% of their games. At home, they've covered in 69.6% of their games. So yeah, they've been a phenomenal team. My one sort of, I guess, concern is that I think that this defense of Phoenix could, and it's a stretch, so just bear with me for a second, could kind of hold their own here in this spot. Last time they played, it was a 13-point win for OKC, and it's a big but, they only scored 99 points. It was 99 to 83. So I do think that something along those lines, not necessarily that low of a scoring game, but that shows a little bit that Phoenix should be able to play some decent defense here. And the reason I'm saying that is because OKC, a lot of pull-up jumpers. Phoenix actually pretty good at stopping that, right? You look at OKC and how they like to score, a ton of isolation. Oh, Phoenix, not all that bad at stopping that, right? You look at the pick and roll ball handler. OKC runs a ton of it. Oh, Phoenix, kind of a middle of the pack, too, decent team at stopping that. So it's like, where is OKC going to score from? That is just, obviously they're going to want to score from the rim, right? But even if they shoot at the rim, well, Phoenix in the last 10 games, or last 3 games here, 10th best in the league at preventing those points. If they try and shoot from the 3, well, Phoenix kind of a middle of the pack team. So I'm not saying OKC doesn't rout them. I'm saying that I don't think this is the highest of scoring games. And even with that said, look at the total, right? 226. Like, I'm not that far off. We've seen a ton of games in the 230s and high 220s for this OKC team recently, as well as this Phoenix team. So I think we're onto something here. I like the under. I'd be an idiot if I was like, I think Phoenix covers this one without Kevin Durant. I don't want to say that, but I do think that we could see, an under in this spot. And I mean, I don't want to say Shea's going to go under, but if this is a low scoring game, Shea's obviously someone that we could look at for an under. Again, I don't know if I'm going to actually roll this myself, but if his line's going to be, 33.5 or something, and this is a low scoring game, then maybe it's something to consider. I probably would pivot to maybe looking at their, 1B type of thing in Jalen, or even like a Aaron Wiggins kind of under type, you know what I mean? Like something that we can be a little bit more nitpicky on, because Shea is defense independent. Like he can go out there and score no matter what. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. We're probably going to see this tomorrow. I'm going to be like, damn, it was a 130 to 120 game, soared way over, and here I am screaming about the under. But you know what? It is what it is. Utah taking on Golden State. We did just see this matchup, what was it, end of January, right? Golden State ended up taking a 114 to 103 win, but honestly, that was with like nobody playing for Utah. Utah ultimately ended up covering their original line, but not the closing line, right? So yeah, I mean, they could compete, and I've been saying, I don't know if I'm the idiot in the room, that this Utah team may be able to be competitive as they get healthy. Lauri Markkanen's listed as questionable now, so it's like, and Colin Sexton's out, right, with his injury. So yeah, this is probably a spot to look at the Warriors minus the 6 points. I mean, Golden State's not playing the best basketball, but this Utah team, I just can never, I can't even utter the words like roll with them when they're injured, right? This is going to be a crazy little take, but when this team's healthy, when you have George, Sexton, Markkanen, Collins, Kessler, like the team ain't that bad. I mean, they're bad, but they're not that bad, right? Like they're not Washington or that level. Like they're a team that they don't get the wins, but they can compete, right? When they're even dinged up a little bit, all those guys' skills aren't good enough to make up for the loss. They don't have the bench to make up for the loss, really. And, like, throw in the fact that they're more often than not, multiple of those guys are injured. Utah's just in such a bad situation. So Golden State minus the 6 for me here. We did see them, again, win by double digits last time out, and we know how Golden State likes to score, right? From deep, and Utah is a terrible perimeter defense. I immediately think about Steph Curry in this spot. By the way, Draymond and Wiggins listed as probable here. I think about Steph and potentially his threes. 4.5 just seems super, super high, especially for a guy that's been really inconsistent to that number, if we're being completely honest, right? So I don't necessarily want to, roll with that. I think he sat out that game against Utah earlier that I was talking about. So yeah, makes me even more confident in the Warriors, but maybe just like a Steph Curry points line. It's at 24.5. This is a team that, like I said, stinks at stopping the threes. And when you look at Utah, or I should say Steph against teams that, really prevent or don't prevent shots from three, he can definitely get up there. So I think I'll lean in that direction. But again, is that too high for a guy that just hasn't been clicking? Potentially. In terms of what we have from a total here, we have this one pegged right around a 7-point win for Golden State. So in the total coming to just under this number. So I'm going to lean under, but it's very, very marginal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sit here being like, oh, based on our projection model, it's way, way under. No, we actually have a margin of, it looks like 0.6 points. So take that for what it's worth. Denver taking on the Pels. So we're going to go to the injury report here because you just got to do that when you're looking at this Pelicans team. And yeah, Zion's listed as good to go. We'll see if he gets those minutes because he just really hasn't been playing the minutes. I mean, I know he's in and out of the lineup, but he's only averaging 27 minutes per game this year, and he's really, I don't even know if he's yet to breach that 30 number, if I'm not mistaken, since like the beginning of the year, like before he was out for all that time. So he's been a guy that I've seen a lot of people, and sadly so, a lot of people jumping on board with his numbers and whatnot because he's in good matchups, which I wouldn't even argue today is like a bad. I think this is a fairly good matchup for Zion today, right? But unfortunately, I just don't know if you're going to have the production minutes, and I think the books know that, you can put some pretty big lines because Zion's filthy. So Zion aside, how do we look at this game? Well, Denver should be able to dominate in the paint. This Pelicans team stinks out loud at stopping points in the paint. You're not going to find a better team in the paint lately or now full season long than Denver. Denver's absolutely dominating in the paint. So I do think that this is one that Denver takes probably by double digits. So I'm going to lean towards them as a favorite here, minus the 10.5. It's a little bit high. I get it. This Denver team, it's not like they've been the greatest against the spread this year, but at home, they've actually covered in 55% of their games. So maybe this is a good spot. In terms of head-to-head matchup, they played just, it was 2-3 days ago, and Denver did just that, right? They covered by double digits, and I see something similar happening here. Usually I'll tell you guys, when we have these, let's sort of like flip it and play the same team, that I would expect different results, but not with a banged up New Orleans team. And when I say banged up, we didn't even mention it. I think, obviously Ingram's been out, Herb Jones is going to be out for a while, and now losing DeJounte Murray, it's like, it's CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson, and Missy, Javonte Green, Trey Murphy. Like, Trey Murphy's good. I think Trey Murphy, a lot of people like him, but I think he's super underrated. I get that they can compete, but is that really, better than Murray, Porter, Gordon, Jokic, throwing Brown, who's been playing well? I don't think so. So give me Denver. In terms of what we have from a total perspective, I'm actually going to lean towards the under, but it's not going to be the under that you think. It's going to be the under that we rolled with last time, and I don't see why this wouldn't be a good spot again, because we just saw this matchup again. Maybe I'm stubbing my toe here because usually I like to flip when we see these matchups, back-to-back games, but I right back to liking the Pelicans team total under, and we can get 116.5 right now. I don't mind that. Under 116.5 team total under for the Pels. Jokic probably going to be a look here, as well as someone like Aaron Gordon if he does play. I want some guys that score in the paint in this game if I have player props on it. All right, Kings taking on the Magic here. Zach LaVine listed as probable. I told you guys when he was listed as out for a few games for personal reasons. That game right before, he was like walking up and down the court. Like, there's clearly some malcontentness going on. Now he gets traded to a new team, and it's like personal I mean, those are personal reasons, to be fair. But now he's like, personal reasons, all good, I'm good to go. Should be pretty exciting. Like I mentioned in that video, which on the More Guy Boston Sports channel, our second channel, I broke this trade down and gave my reaction. I think that this is a good fit for LaVine. He's going to stretch the floor more. Malik Monk is just really coming into his own. Not to say that he wasn't really good prior to, but he's going to own that point guard role. So I think the Kings could have a very good team here now. And I already kind of mentioned it earlier in the show, right? I was like, I think this Kings team is going to be sneaky, very, very good down the stretch. So I like them in this spot. I don't think Orlando has fully figured it out yet. I've been such a roller coaster ride emotionally with this Orlando team, right? They were really good to start the year, and I said that they're going to be one of the better teams in the East. Then they get injured, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I was going to be right. We didn't see the full season, and then they still looked pretty damn good, and it's like, wow, this team rides, they grind, and then they just start to get more and more injured. And now when guys come back, like Franz and Banchero, they lose Jalen Suggs. So, yeah, Sacramento here at home, potentially with their new scoring piece there in Zach LaVine. Should be pretty damn exciting. I like Sacramento minus the points. I might look at, even today, like a San Antonio and Sacramento parlay money line, just because I'm excited to see. Like, I don't know if that's just the NBA geek in me, but I think that these are very good spots for both of these guys, Fox and LaVine. So maybe it's just me being excited because I love this league and the drama and the trades, right? But I do think that both these, I think a lot of the NBA world is just sleeping on this trade because it happened right after the Luka trade, right? So I like Sacramento in this spot. That total's at 218. Does seem a little low, doesn't it? I mean, Sacramento has been playing at the 6th fastest pace over the last 10 games. We just cashed the over with them in Minnesota. Orlando probably not going to be one of the teams that pushes the tempo here, and they are a good defense, so I think we might be able to get a good number here. I don't mind a Sacramento team total over. But again, if we're going to roll with Sacramento, it's going to be one way. I'm not going to, have this sort of bias because I'm excited about the trade, thought about the game, and then play it multiple ways. And then if that one thing doesn't go well, it's like, oh, damn, now we're screwed, right? So I'd probably look at Sacramento team total over 109.5, over 110.5, and call it quits. We look at Orlando's defense recently, 104 to Golden State, Utah 113, Portland 119, Miami 125, Detroit 113, Portland 101, Toronto 109, Denver 113, Boston 121, Milwaukee 122. They're not the same defense that they have been in the past right now. Like, there's only a few games that I mentioned in those last 10 that teams have gone under that 110 mark. So that'd be a consideration for me there. In terms of where we go player prop wise, I'm not like right away that eager to be looking at Zach LaVine per se. This Orlando team is fairly sound against the pick and roll and against pull-up jumpers and catch and shoots. Where they do struggle to some degree is kind of in that mid-range to extended paint area. So I do think I end up kind of taking a peek at DeMar DeRozan. My one little concern there would be, well, his line is really high, and I would expect, with Malik Monk stepping up and now Zach LaVine potentially playing, that we'd get a lower line for DeMar. Right now it's at 20.5. I don't mind that, but Zach LaVine may be taking a decent amount of shots there, right? And Zach LaVine's line is already set at 20.5. So we may stick away from the player props here, but I do think that DeRozan is the kind of player that fits the bill pretty well here. And we could even look at, I would say, his points plus assists, because I think he's going to have a decent amount of assist opportunities here tonight as well. Has he been getting a ton of potential assists? No, but that one game without Fox, 9 potential assists, and he had 7 of them convert. So DeMar could be points plus assists, a little bit safer than just his points overall, because again, it's only a difference of 3. And, on the season, we look at DeMar DeRozan assist-wise, he's averaging 3.6. So if he just goes out there and continues to get some assists, it should look good. And if we look at it without De'Aaron Fox just on the season, right, his assist line, he's averaging 5.3 without De'Aaron Fox this year. Only a small sample size, but still 5.3. So DeMar could be a look today for us. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Long video, big slate. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Appreciate it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.